the decisions that I make now have to be made by taking into account how it's going to affect my son and my wife.
Yes.
And that, you know, it would have been really easy to make these other decisions, harder decisions, when I was younger, because they didn't affect anybody else. If I failed, I had the safety net of home. You know what I mean? Like, so it's that makes a difference too. But at the same time, to me, when I see 16, 17, 18, 22, 24-year-old standing up behind the mic, that to me takes balls.
So what were you saying about your brother?
He does lawn treatment, chemical lawn treatment. And I get this random text from him last fall, and he said, hey man, I just chopped off my toe. And so of course I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about, you know? And he sends me this picture, and it's a picture of him in the hospital, and there's just all of these bandages sitting where his big toe should be, and just obviously blood.
Oh, it was the big toe.
Oh yeah, big toe.
Ugh.
And then the next thing I know, he sends me another picture. I said, where's your fucking toe? And because he's in the hospital bed by this time, and he just holds up a sock, and he's like, my toe's in here. And there's just this sock with a lump in it, you know? And so he was unloading something on one of those tilt trailers, and it caught his toe. And so he cut his toe off. And so now he's got like half of a big toe. It took just his, like from the toenail down, a toenail up or out, whatever.
So he's still got a little bit of toe.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of toe left, but he doesn't have to, you know, he pays for a pedicure and gets 9/10 pricing or something. You know?
Does he have any of the nail left at all?
No nail. It's just
How's his balance and stuff? Did it affect?
It doesn't seem to affect him. Yeah, I mean, he seems to be all right. So I guess he kept enough to keep balance.
Yeah,
you know, which is good.
So you have to get a prosthetic piece there or something.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's pretty comical to see. I mean, I hate to be like that, but he was pretty funny about it too. You know, like he took it all in stride. Like, oh, there goes a toe.
That's why you should buy steel toe shoes.
Yeah, that's what I told him.
If you're lifting stuff.
Yeah, most definitely.
Man, ugh. So I guess none of the audience knows. BJ and I grew up together. I think middle school through high school.
Yeah, middle school through high school.
What year did you graduate?
99.
Yeah, I was thinking you're younger than me.
Year behind. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I was 98, but I had several classes with you. I think like weight classes maybe or.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we had classes. I mean,
like
it was that we were pretty interspersed. I mean, I had our school. We had freshmen in our senior classes and vice versa.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw you a lot at school. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, I think we had JROTC together too, maybe.
Oh, we might have. I done terribly at that.
Yeah, it was.
Which is crazy because I actually went in the military and I got a fucking 0 in JROTC.
That's funny.
Yeah, I just would not wear the uniform. I'm like, I'm not fucking wearing the uniform, you know.
Yeah, I hated wearing the uniforms.
I
wouldn't cut my hair, so I always get deducted for having long hair.
I didn't mind the haircuts because we were poor, so you got a buzz cut in the kitchen every other Sunday anyway. We didn't pay for haircuts.
I probably had long hair because I was poor too. But.
Yeah. Yeah. You were into skateboarding and stuff though. It was kind of your thing. So
also it was a little rebellious thing too.
Yeah.
My parents really hated my long hair. So I was like, I gotta have long hair.
Gotta have long hair for that.
I love my parents, but
you got to rebel as a teenager.
like when people tell me what I have to do. Like,
yeah. I don't either, but sometimes you got to listen, unfortunately.
Maybe. But yes, it's cool. It was cool to see you at the Idiot Box. I remember, when did you start doing stand up? About a year ago.
A year ago, yeah. It's funny enough. I think my class. I took the class with Steve, and I think July 2nd or somewhere around there was like the official year mark for that class. And I didn't go to any open mics or anything before that because I knew I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't mind making an idiot of myself if I know what I'm doing. I just didn't want to do it and not know what I was doing or think I did, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been doing it for right at a year at this point.
We grew up in a small town, so it's cool to see other guys from the same small town, you know, becoming artists or trying to do
Yeah,
do bigger things, I guess.
I always had an interest in it, and I think for me, it was like being raised the way I was. Everybody told me, you know, you've got to do certain things. You've got to graduate high school. The military is going to help you get through college. You've got to have a college degree. You've got to go to work. You've got to do all these things. And then I got to where I was like 40. I'd always kind of wanted to do it. And I got to my 40s and I was like, I'm going to do this before I turn 41 because I'd always had an interest in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really the first thing that I kind of did for myself. Like I got my degree and all these other things because I wanted to kind of make my parents proud, I guess, in a sense. Yeah. And then this right here is kind of something I just do for me. And then too, I had, you may remember him, but there was a kid we went to school with, Russ, that was like a quarterback on the football team. And we were out during practice. It was either my junior or senior year. And I've always been kind of like funny in the moment. And we were talking and somebody's like, BJ would make a great comedian. And Russ said, nah, he's just funny in the moment. Like he tells funny stories, but I don't think he could be a comedian. And he wasn't saying, knows. Yeah. He wasn't being like, I don't think he was trying to shut me down or anything, you know, like gatekeeping comedy from me or anything, but it's funny that kind of lived in the back of my mind for, 23 years or whatever before I actually said, you know, fuck it, we're gonna see if I can do this or not.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you bring that up because that's a real common thing it was a real common thing in my childhood. I'm sure in most small towns, there's like because it's just tough. It's even the people that were doing really well, most of those people weren't doing that great.
Right.
You know, and there's a limited amount of resources that, you know, and if you grow up poor like we did, then there's no resources. It's just, you know, what's the best path to not continue to be poor. You know, it's like, what do I have to do to make money so I can live a better life than I've lived so far and that my parents have lived? And so you don't really have the option to pursue. I mean, you do, and it's sort of I think it's I think there's we're encouraged to not pursue the things that we really want to pursue, like art, because I was always an artist growing up. You know, that was always what I wanted to be, was just an artist. I wasn't sure exactly how I wanted to express myself, but I knew it was a life of expression was what I was drawn to. But I also had analytical abilities, and I've always had interest in business. So for me, you know, it was, you know, going in the direction of more focus on business was a better choice to get out of poverty. You know, it seemed like the only option at the time. Now going back, I would probably do things a lot differently. I would probably pursue art and just struggle for a few years until I could, you know, make that start working. But you know, I wouldn't change anything at this point, you know, because I have a wife and a daughter, and I'm happy with my life. But I do have, you know, I do have that desire to express myself, and that was often discouraged growing up. You know, I mean, my parents appreciated my ability to express myself and to create things, and they always encouraged me to do that. My dad's a good artist.
Like drawing?
More of a classical artist, yeah, my dad is.
Okay.
But he's always appreciated art, but at the same time he's more of a he's more of a I guess what you would say a realist, which I don't really like that term, but that's how he would approach things, and he would say, well, you know, you need to do the things that are going to feed you and that are going to, you know,
he didn't want you to be a starving artist. Yeah.
Right. And his, you know, his childhood was the same way. Like his dad told him the same stuff. Like, you can't pursue art. You need to pursue things that are going to provide you, you know, with financial security. And, which, you know, I don't know that he did that either, but he could have. He's a really smart dude. He could have been an engineer or something, but, you know, it was just, you know, I guess whenever he grew up, it was, you could go out and get a job at a, you know, he was an upholsterer for a long time, and he could make decent money doing that.
Right.
And he enjoyed it, you know, but, you know, for us when we were kids, I think we had a lot more options just in society. The internet was the thing then, or it became it. The
Yeah.
internet had just came out. Things were really changing technologically. Things were becoming digital, and it was opening a lot of doors. And I feel like, you know, I missed some opportunities in that. But I would say if you're a young person today and you're a young artist, then you should really pursue that art. If that's something you're really passionate about, you need to find a way to really pursue those things. And I would also say it's not easy. It's a lot of work. So it's not going to be fun. The work part's not fun. You should be suffering. Like if it's worth pursuing, and if you really think you can do it, then you have to put in a lot of work, and you have to really suffer until you reach a level where you can where your art is good enough to provide you a living. But I think you should do it, because I think if you don't do it, then you regret it, and then you're older in life like us, and you're like, man, I should have done this a long time ago, because now I'm 43, you know, like
Right.
which I started pursuing more the creative side around 33. So I've been at it for about 10 years, but I didn't get into comedy until I was 39, I guess. Or 30, 39.
I think for me, comedy was something that I always enjoyed, and it was in the back of my head. And it was, I think you're absolutely right. I think if a kid is interested in it, by kid, I mean anybody younger, I think they should do it. But also, I don't think you should let your age stop you either. If you're fucking 50 and you want to do this, then I say give it a go. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
You know, it's
you're just limited again.
Yeah, you are. It's the decisions that I make now have to be made by taking into account how it's going to affect my son and my wife.
Yes.
And that, you know, it would have been really easy to make these other decisions, harder decisions, when I was younger, because they didn't affect anybody else. If I failed, I had the safety net of home. You know what I mean? Like, so it's that makes a difference too. But at the same time, to me, when I see 16, 17, 18, 22, 24-year-old standing up behind the mic, that to me takes balls. I mean,
it's also encouraging too.
It's
exciting.
It's nice to see. And it's probably better, to be honest, that I wasn't a comedian at 24, because the stuff that I thought was funny would probably have gotten me canceled.
Well, I doubt it. I mean, when you were, at that time though, it was probably more typical. You know.
Maybe, but we see where Dane Cook is now, and I used to think that was funny, and then I go back and watch it, and I'm like,
Dane Cook's doing great though.
But
that dude's doing
BJ
all right.
May not be doing great if he.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, things. Culture changes, society changes, and as long as you're adaptable, and I think most artists are open-minded people, and they adapt easy. They don't mind change. I embrace change. I enjoy it. You know, as long as it's a positive change. But even if it's negative change, I can still adapt to it pretty easily. So I think keeping your mind more plastic and open and adaptable helps you as an artist. And I think as long as you can do that, you can still create art. But I think it is easier at a young age, you know, because I think energy is a big factor. You know, when I was in my 20s, I felt great all the time.
Right.
You know, now I just feel great occasionally.
Yeah, that's
so it's a lot harder. I have to really push myself to do the work, and I do it, but it would be a lot easier when I was younger.
Yeah, but I think the age comes into play there too, because now you have the discipline to know that you've got to do it, you know, whereas
and you have a lot of perspective
when you're younger, you probably don't have that to fall back on. You're definitely not going to have your friends' encouragement a lot of times.
No.
You know, and so that's a lot of, and that's really important when you're young. You know, you want that social bond. But you know, my friends have been telling me for like 15 years, like, go do this. And I just never did it. You know, it was still, it's weird how a comment can still kind of linger in the back of your mind for so long, even though you've got everybody else around you saying, no, you're great, you could do it. And then you just don't, you know?
Well, we were so distanced from this life, you know, from comedy or acting or that those opportunities, they don't really present themselves in small towns like that, small communities. It's just, it seems like, well, that's what those people do out there. That's not what we do here. We can't do that.
Well, I remember, so like in middle school, I started going to Southwest my 7th grade year, but my 6th grade year, and part of my 7th grade year, I was at another school and I was involved in chorus. And then I got involved in chorus at Southwest when I went there initially, the middle school.
Yeah.
And I remember that some kid, I don't even remember the kid. I'm sure he didn't graduate with us. One of those drops out in 9th or 10th grade guys.
Sure.
He like would make fun of me for being in chorus. And so I let that influence the fact that I wasn't going to be in chorus.
Yeah. Well,
which is how I wound up in fucking ROTC as a freshman. And I hated it too,
Yeah.
And so it's weird, but that right there, I lived down, like I got over that pretty quick because, and I've told you this before, when I got out of the military, I had an opportunity to sing for a cover band. And so I joined a cover band just because I liked music, and I didn't even necessarily love all of the music that we sang. I just enjoyed that atmosphere.
Sure.
Because I'm not, I don't play instruments. I've tried, and it's just not something I take to.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great voice, but I can parrot a lot of different people's voices. And so I could sound like people.
And your voice is an instrument, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
a really difficult one to use.
It's, if anything, it's closer to a tape recorder because I would just try to sound like the artist that I was singing covering their song.
Sure.
And so, that's kind of where it was. And, so in some ways, I guess the reason I got over that is because I thought, fuck that guy. And I felt like, my station in life had improved and I didn't have to listen to that. But then somebody that was actual friend that had said something, I took that more to heart, and it's kind of like, it's weird. It's just weird the way our psychology works and things like that. And also too, in a cover band, nothing you do is personal. So it's not intimate as far as if you don't like the way I sing, you can leave, you can tell me I suck or whatever.
Right.
But it's not me. I didn't write this song. I might connect with it on some level, but you don't know what level that is. It might mean something different to you. So whereas the stuff that I write for comedy, there's pieces of me in there. And so
it's all you.
I want people to like it. I want people to say, oh, that's, he found the funny in that. Or I can't believe he done that. Or, you know what I mean? Like I want to tell a story in a way that makes you laugh and actually helps you get to know me on some level, and it is different. And it's probably different for musicians that write their music. They probably have a deeply interpersonal relationship with what they're putting out there. So when you tell them a song sucks, they're like, oh, well, song's about my grandma. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So
what's also, artistic expression, I think, and I've said this a few times on here is I feel like, my ideas are not my own, but all of our ideas are ours collectively. And so when you're expressing an idea or articulating an idea, you're not just expressing it. You're not just expressing your own ideas. All of our ideas are a collaboration of millions of people's ideas. And we're just, I think as an artist, you're just expressing all those ideas. It's like we're idea funnels, and comedy, or really all creative expression is vulnerable. You're having to really open yourself up and sometimes say some things that are not exactly what you're trying to express, especially in like comedy. Where you try, like I've got some bits I'm trying to figure out, and I can't say them right. Like I'm not saying the correct thing. That like the idea that I have internally is not what's coming out. Right. And you have to, it's almost humiliating. And sometimes it can come across as offensive until you get it right. So it's a very vulnerable experience trying to express and articulate a specific idea or certain ideas. And I think that's that's part of the suffering of creating art, I think, is trying to figure out how to best articulate a specific idea and do it in a way that resonates with other people in a positive way.
Yeah, I think it's what strangely enough, what I like the most about like the open mics or any of the showcases or anytime I watch a show, I like when you have that moment where, and it could be somebody that's experienced or it could be somebody that is just starting, but you've watched them maybe at an open mic, especially stumble over this thing a couple of times. And sometimes in the back of your head, you're like, man, they got to lose that. And then all of a sudden it comes together for them. And it's like, and then you're like, fuck, how did I never see that? You know what I mean? It's like, it's almost obvious. It's glaring at that point.
Or when it happens to you, like you've been working on
it's
something
never
for a
happened
while.
to me yet.
Always happens. Yeah, and sometimes you can't let certain ideas go. Like sometimes I have, like I've got one now. I just don't want to do it anymore. Like I'm like it just keeps bombing, and then this one thing is, and there's certain parts of it that work, but it's so difficult to figure it out, and it's just like, man, I just don't want to do it, but then I can't stop thinking about it, and so I'll just keep doing it until I figure it out, and then it'll eventually happen. I'll be like, oh, there it is, but it's just. And I guess that's what's rewarding about the craft too is, once you do figure it out and it works, then it's like magic.
My thing too is like right now, most of what I've done is obviously been like shorter bits, between 5 and 10 minutes, and I think that is easy in some ways compared to having to write something that can be almost cumbersome, and you have to you have to make the reward so much greater than just a regular laugh. So like Norm Macdonald was a genius at that, at writing this 3-minute joke, and you weren't sure where he was going. And then he delivers the punchline, and it's like, it's almost like it was worth all of this time building up to it. And that's, I would love to have that skill set, but I know that I'm not there yet. But I think that helps too when you're talking about more subjects that need a little bit more explanation rather than just, tag, punch, tag, you know what I mean? It's so that's part of it too. And I've got stuff that's in my head, and I know I can make it funny. And then sometimes I start to deliver it, and then I realize that it's just not time. Like maybe right. I'm like, I'm just not quite there. And then sometimes it's something that happens, and I just realize, okay, this isn't going to work. So like last night we had an open mic audience that was that was not as racially diverse as they tend to be. And the jokes that I had really were going to rely on having a little more diversity in the crowd.
Yeah.
And it was like, I heard when I was up there, I heard some whispers at a table that was pretty close, and I heard a laugh, and I was like, this is going to be a problem.
Is it stuff you've done before though?
No, it's totally new. Totally new. Yeah. Okay. And
that's what those mics are for though.
Yeah.
And when I can't stand when people negatively judge you at a mic if you're a good dude. I mean, I can understand if you're like a hateful person, but if you're a decent person and you're trying to articulate an idea, an open mic is not a place to be judgmental towards other comics. If you're a comic, I mean, if you're an audience member, I get it. You don't understand, but if you're a comic, you shouldn't be judging another comic that's trying to articulate a difficult idea. Because
I don't think I was being judged. Just to be clear, I mean, I think I didn't hear any. I did deliver one of the jokes out of it, and I got I got some feedback from it that was kind of positive, or trying to help me figure out how to make it not so not so cumbersome. But just shortening it up. But it,
also it's pretty brave for somebody to,
yeah, it just,
if somebody is saying something about you, like specifically you, like you're an intimidating dude.
Yeah. That's something I have to try to keep in mind, because I guess I know who I am. And, I've talked about this before. I'm remarkably confident for somebody, in a lot of ways that I probably shouldn't be, like it's, it's kind of weird. Well, I mean,
confidence is important. I think in art, especially, like if you're trying to, in comedy, really, like if you're trying to articulate an idea or express an idea and you're delivering a bit, or you're doing a set or whatever, I think confidence is a huge part of it, man. That's, maybe one of the biggest, because if you look at all the top comics, they're extraordinarily confident, and I think confidence and charisma sort of are the same thing almost. They're like very closely related.
Yeah.
And so I think you have to have the confidence in what you're saying to have the charisma to really resonate with the audience. And so that's, that's something I work on is confidence. I have a lot of self-doubt, and you should, I think it's reasonable to have doubt, but otherwise you're just living delusion. But, but I think once you're on stage, though, you have to be really confident about what you're saying, have a strong point of view, and really, because if you don't fully believe or care about what you're saying, then nobody else is going to.
Yeah.
And I can tell, like with myself, when I'm on stage, if I'm fully in the moment and fully confident about what I'm saying, and I know exactly what I'm saying and why I'm saying it, it goes well. But as soon as I get in my head, or I start questioning myself, or I'm not sure, like I have some like fear sets in, or unsurety, or unsureness, then it just ruins the moment. I lose the energy, I lose the audience.
I think the biggest thing I'm trying to do is figure out how to take a more natural, my more natural personality onto the stage. Because I know that I have a gift when it comes to telling stories. I've always had the ability to tell you a story about something and find the funny in it. And, I prefer a funny story. It's just when I worked in law enforcement for 2 years, and I was surrounded by these guys that to me just reeked of, and this isn't a knock on all cops at all, I'll preface that. But there were a lot that seemed to have or lack a lack of confidence. A lot of them seemed to lack confidence, and they would tell these grandiose stories about almost being superheroes and supermen and just saving people left and right. And I'm like, bro, we just answered a fucking alarm call. We just walked around a school that the alarm went off. We didn't do anything crazy, and I would always, when I would tell my stories about it, if people would say, what happened at work, I always gravitated more towards the funny things, like a couple that was outside fighting with, and this is true, outside fighting with a garden rake and a golf club when I got on the call, like that, that stuff was funny to me. Or, a guy that had stolen a child's bicycle, and he was a full grown man riding down the road. Just, his knees were going as fast as because the bike had those, you couldn't just hold the pedals, it would hit the brakes. So his knees are going by his ears just as fast as he's going down the hill, purple and pink tassels flying off the handlebars. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And he just like puts his feet down to stop, and he's like, this is my bike. And I'm like, nah, man, there's no, there's no way. You've got a My Little Pony bike. Get that thing back where it goes. I gravitated towards stories like that because I like funny stories. I don't want to hear about you being some comic book hero, because chances are I don't fucking believe it anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it just never was. So anyway, like as far as telling stories go, I've just always loved telling people a story in a way where they're like, man, that's funny as shit. Like that's crazy that,
Yeah.
that you did that or you experienced that.
Well,
So-
all the people I hung out with growing up were funny people.
Oh yeah.
You know, I didn't hang out with those real serious, boring people.
And, well, even my dad, like I'm not, you know, that's the thing is like, I would say my dad was a stern dad, you know, he was firm, and that's putting it nicely. But there were still times when he was just hilarious.
Yeah,
you
same,
know?
same, yeah.
And I think that's where I get a lot of it from. Even now, my son will tell me something and I'll like break it out into a song, you know, like it'll remind me of a song lyric, and and he's getting mad, you know, he's like, oh Dad, that's not, you know, and my dad used to do that, you know, but he was a little bit more of an asshole with it. You know, his thing might be, I remember one time he told us to clean the house. Like it was our chore, and being kids, we just wanted to go outside. That's all we wanted. Yeah. And he was like, we're going to clean this house. And he put it to the tune of like, Bob Seger's Old Time Rock and Roll.
Yeah.
So he's like, just take that dusty shit off the shelf instead of take those old records off. So he's sitting there singing, he's like, take that dusty shit off the shelf. Yeah, and then, you know, and he just had this whole song that he made up off the fly. And I remember just, even though I hated cleaning the house, in that moment, that was like the most fun I'd had.
It's nice when your dad is silly with you. Like when your parents are playful and it's because it's like, especially if you're poor, because they're under so much stress and pressure all the time.
Especially,
That's why that's why we had those issues with our parents when we were kids. That's why they'd beat the shit out of you sometimes, because it's like all that pressure and all that societal stress and fear of you not making it. And I think they put all that pressure they've got on them on you.
Yeah,
and so when they can lighten up and they have fun, and you know, like my dad, he's a funny dude. He can be very serious, but he has a good sense of humor, and he likes to laugh and joke around and be silly, and you know, he had a lot of trauma growing up as a child, and also the culture was so different in his lifetime, and his ideas about how to raise a child and how to discipline and stuff like that were so different than mine today. And but I don't fault him for that. He did a lot of things wrong, but he did a lot of things right too. And I love my dad. He's one of my best friends, you know, and I appreciate that humor was always an important part of our life. You know, we didn't have anything, but we had the ability to laugh and really have a good time with what we had, and that meant a lot. And I think makes you appreciate things more. And then but yeah, it's nice even when life is really hard that you can laugh about stuff. And we would even laugh about how hard life was, you know, like how just the things we had to do, and you know, shitty cars and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, and that's like I've got that joke where I say you know, my dad didn't leave. I have a dad, which means that I can, you know, change a tire or work on a car. I just have to call myself a pussy while I do it, you know, because that's kind of, that's what, you know what I mean? Like, I learned those skills, and I learned them under whatever pressure he felt like he needed to apply, you know? And, but the funny thing is that looking back, you know, the one thing I'll say, being poor, you are incredibly close to your family. Like, I think your family unit is really strong.
Well, if you're lucky, there's a lot of people that are poor that aren't.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think that's different now, because I think that, I think you've got a lot more, outside social influences like drug use and, lack of health for mental care and things like that. I think there's a lot of other things going on that, you know,
just poverty in general.
Yeah. And, but it's crazy because the things that I loved as a kid. Every now and then I still kind of miss it to the point. So here's a prime example. We were poor, obviously, but we weren't hungry. My dad did work and provide food and shelter and the basics, but we ate cheap. And so the Stouffer's makes like these Salisbury steaks. And like one night a week we had Stouffer's Salisbury steaks. And I swore when I got out of the house, I'll never eat these motherfuckers again. And they come with so much gravy in them. There's like 5 steaks in a box or something, or 8, whatever. But there's enough gravy for half a loaf of bread.
And it's really just slime.
Yeah. And you would eat the Salisbury steak, and then you would literally just take white loaf of bread and dip it in the gravy and just eat that just to have more, because, you know, in your head, it was just as good as the Salisbury steak. And so I actually just out of shits and giggles, I grabbed one time, and I was like, I'm going to let my son have this. You know, we try not to eat shit like that, because I'm fortunate enough that I don't have to. And I heated it up the way it said, and I'm thinking, I smell it, and I'm like, yeah, man, that bouillon smell and that, you know, artificial gravy, that gelatinous fat. And I'm like, this is going to be fantastic. And the second it hits my mouth, I'm like, what in the fuck am I doing, man? Like, I should have left it as a memory.
It's poison.
It was better as a memory. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. That's, you know, we ate pinto beans and cornbread a lot for dinner.
Oh God. And to this day, I'll eat pinto beans and cornbread.
Oh, I can't stand it. I like cornbread.
Really?
I don't like
Come
pinto
on,
beans.
man.
I didn't like them then. I don't like them now.
I love pinto beans and cornbread. Cornbread especially, but
cornbread's great.
And not only that, if cornbread was ever left over, which was rare at our house, you take that stuff and put it in a little bit of milk, and man, it's like a dessert.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But talking about milk, you couldn't get caught doing that, because milk was only for breakfast. And I've literally seen my stepmom growing up.
No, not in my house. We drink a lot of milk. We would drink. Me and my dad would drink 6 gallons of milk a week.
Yeah, you guys, you should have strong bones.
I do. Actually, when I lost my leg, my surgeon said I had the strongest bone she'd ever seen.
Yeah,
she's like, the bone saw was smoking, trying to cut through your leg. And I was like, that's disturbing, but it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Do they let you keep it? Can you keep a leg?
I should have. I thought.
Will they let you?
I doubt it, but
man, that's fucked up.
I was like, man, I should have kept
your
that thing
fucking leg.
Should have kept it in a jar of formaldehyde.
Yeah,
like,
not even. Just send it to a taxidermist. Turn it into a lamp.
Yeah, that's
the
funny.
Lamp,
dude. It was on Steven Ranella's Instagram. He posted a picture of a thumb. No, it was a finger. It was an index finger on like a plaque, but it was like upright. This dude lost his finger and had a taxidermist.
Yeah,
did a really great job of stuffing that finger in.
I love
funny.
Listen, man, if you ever hear of me hitting the lottery or coming into money somehow, just be prepared. I love weird taxidermy. I don't spend money on it now because I'm just too practical. I'm like, oh, that could go to this or that. Yeah. But if I just had indisposable income, I know I would do stupid, like I would be buying jackalopes and stuff that's not real, but that a taxidermist has made look real. You know what I mean?
From the carnivals.
Yeah, the weird stuff. Yeah. You know, like a human skull with moose antlers on it or some shit. Yeah. I just love weird. I love weird art. Period. Like Salvador Dali is like my favorite.
I love Salvador
artist.
Yeah.
I just love weird stuff.
Surreal art.
Yeah, that's
fantasy art.
And not just anything strange. I was just telling Jenny about this last night. Like, to me, the most talented artist is the guy that goes to Goodwill and buys a picture of like a painting of a farm, and then is creative enough to take it home and paint like a spaceship abducting a cow.
Oh, that's Eric. Eric does stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. I didn't realize it, but I was like that to me is art. That's what I'm here for. I don't care about the Mona Lisa. I could go my whole life and never, probably will go my whole life and never see the Mona Lisa. I don't give 2 shits about most art. But you give me some weird stuff like that, and I'm on board with it. You show me where somebody in Roswell, New Mexico has built, an artificial space shuttle or flying saucer. Yeah. I'm on board with that, man. That's my dream vacation. And I've told my wife this, my dream vacation is to take 2 weeks and just ride all of Route 66 and stop at all of those old roadside stupid things.
That's a cool. Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. I've been out there too. We a few years ago we shot a documentary on meteorites.
Yeah,
it was like a meteorite hunting adventure.
Yeah,
we didn't find one meteorite. We found a lot that we thought were meteorites. None of them were meteorites.
Just picking up random rocks. You know?
But we found a lot of cool places out in Arizona that were really fascinating. Like there's a place. It was called Two Guns, Arizona.
Okay,
and it was where this crazy dude created a roadside attraction where he had, lions and shit there.
Yeah. That's what I'm here
but
for.
he also found this cave. It was I can't remember the name of the cave, but apparently it was the Native Americans in the area considered it sort of a sacred place because I think the Apache Indians did something to the Navajo and like kidnaps some of their little girls or something, and so the Navajo trapped these Apaches in this cave. Like I guess the cave was like a dwelling, and they trapped, I want to say 100 or so Apaches in that cave and then burned them inside the cave.
Okay.
And so this cave was full of human remains, skeletons and stuff. And
that was from that.
That incident, yeah. And this dude bought that property and sold those bones as souvenirs.
Yeah, he don't give a shit about ghosts, does he? He doesn't.
Well, I don't care about ghosts, but
I don't either.
It's disrespectful
yeah,
for
it's crazy.
The humans that were a part of that suffering. But people were just crazy back then, and I think we're getting better. But back then you could do anything, and people just kind of accepted it. But,
well, I mean, the Mount Rushmore was chosen based on it being an indigenous mountain that was part of their faith. I mean, that wasn't just like indiscriminately selected. We done that with the intention of.
I didn't even know that. That's
yeah. I mean, we done that with the intention of taking an indigenous space and
pretty messed up.
Yeah, making it ours. And we're like, not only that, we're going to
put our
4
faces
white dudes' faces on it. So
we're not our faces.
So it's like, and then so when you find out about stuff like a dude selling bones out of a cave, that seems almost minimalist compared to some of the things that the government itself has actually done.
Or just humans, and humans have committed many atrocities.
Oh yeah, we're assholes, man.
Well, we're not, but some of our ancestors have been.
It's in our DNA. We could be.
We could be. Yeah, we could be. But hopefully the ones of us that don't want to be that way will eventually be the majority. And I think we probably are the majority now. But
I think good people are the majority. But you don't hear about them because there's nothing entertaining about doing the right thing a lot of times.
There's nothing financially rewarding yet. Well, I think there can be. I think we just it's that scarcity mentality.
Well, and then sometimes I think goodness is it's misdefined.
Like
good,
people
think if you ask anybody that isn't somewhat crazy, most people think that at heart they're good people,
Yeah.
But if you really get to the core and ask them why they think they're good, then you start to see, where that shift is. Why are you a good person? Oh, because I pay my tithes, or I've done a mission trip, or whatever. And then it's where I'm kind of pissing on religion a little bit, but I have a reason for that.
Well, that's a common, and it's not just religion; it's any ideology that's like that, where you can, it's what's the term? It's like it's like a form of self-righteousness.
Yeah,
we attach ourselves to certain ideologies and feel like that just because I believe this thing, it makes me righteous.
Yeah.
And you have to that's a trap. It's like a tribalism trap. I think we should all be real cautious about attaching ourselves to specific ideologies.
The thing about religions that I always thought was crazy. Because growing up around here, we obviously were exposed to it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I remember hearing people say that they had taken, especially in high school, that they had taken mission trips, and they were building churches in like Central and South America and these places. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, they would show the pictures and I'm like, these people have no clothes. They're fighting for clean water. And you're here building a church. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that is self-serving in a lot of ways, at least for the church, to build a church instead of building a well. You know, it's like, you've got somebody wearing soda bottles as flip-flops and you're here building a church for them to come. And the only books you bring are religious literature. Like that never really sat well with me. And then to see that those were the people that everybody would say, oh, these are good people. And I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm just saying they're a little misguided.
Well, also, you know, like you look at indigenous peoples like that, and you think these people live this way for thousands of years, like thousands and thousands of years. Why do you think you need to help them?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that, instead of giving them churches and Bibles, maybe just give them antibiotics.
Yeah.
And let them continue to live their life the way they are and let their culture evolve the way it naturally will, you know, and don't interfere with it. Don't interfere with it with ideologies. Like maybe if they want your help, if they want you to help them technologically, to show them how to do different things, fine. If they don't want your help though, then don't force your will on those people. But, you know, provide them medicines and stuff and food, you know, things that they may need if they need it, you know. When it's religious groups doing that, it's more like them forcing their ideologies on people and saying, hey, if you accept our beliefs, we'll give you this free shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
have you seen this? I love this. It comes up every 4 or 5 years. There's an island somewhere in the Indian Ocean, I believe, that the people are completely isolated and
they'll kill you.
Yeah. And they literally, there's a guy that tried to go on like a mission trip there. I don't know what his denomination of religion was, but he was like speared to death on the beach and then his body was like laying there.
Well, apparently there was an explorer that went there years ago and decades ago and sort of took advantage of those people. Like he was studying them and kind of being disrespectful and irreverent to them and stuff, and just treating them inhumanely like animals, I guess, instead of people. And they just don't trust anyone anymore. So now if anyone comes there, like from the outside,
they just kill them.
They just kill them. They're like, they're not good. Like they're going to bring harm to us.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But those people probably won't be around a whole lot longer either, because I don't think there's a whole lot of diversity in that.
No, there's not. Yeah. That's what they've talked about. And so
like a dying,
I think it falls
society
under like the Indian government, if I'm right.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And they've pretty much just, it's kind of like they exist. We know it, but
it's a no-fly zone.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't mess with them. So, which I love, man. It's like, I feel like that's the way we should do a lot of indigenous
I would
people.
love to talk to those people and just see what their perception of the world is.
Yeah.
Like what they think is out there. They have to see planes and stuff, you know what
I
mean?
How do you explain that? Yeah. It would be unique to find that perspective. I'm sure there's probably there's similar studies that were done on like Native Australians, like the Aborigine and stuff.
There's places in the Amazon where there's indigenous people that are, you know, very separate from the rest of the world and society.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure you could get a similar perspective because there are cultures out there that are not. It almost seems like you're an asshole if you say they're not civilized. Because
well, I think there's
it's a different civilization.
Really interesting thing about indigenous cultures or societies is that, like hunter-gatherer cultures and stuff, is they only spend 4 or 5 hours a day working and, you know, gathering food and supplies and preparing for, you know, meals and stuff. The rest of the time they spend with each other. So a lot of times those people are pretty happy. They just have a lot of they have a lot of parasites and stuff like that, which I know that there are a lot of groups giving indigenous society or indigenous peoples medicines and you know, antibiotics and anti-parasitic drugs and stuff to help with that. But but not interfering with their culture, which I
Yeah.
think is important.
That's ideal.
And I
Yeah.
think even in our culture, I think if we would I think we could learn a lot from those people, because we have all this technology and all this capability, and we're still relatively unhappy overall because there's so much corruption in our society, so much power and control. And I think and I think instead of saying everybody has to have a 40-hour work week, and today it's not like it, like when you and I were young, you know, you could work 40 hours a week and provide for your family. Today you can't really do that. Most entry-level jobs are not enough. There's not enough pay to even cover your lifestyle or to cover a basic lifestyle. So I think, you know, it'd be nice if we had a society where on the entry level, you just had to work at least 20 or 30 hours a week, and that would be enough to sustain you and have a decent life. And then you could figure out what you're really good at, and also just enjoy life with your family, you know, because I'm sure your parents were the same way. Like my parents spent their whole life working really hard, and they missed everything.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't, the majority of their life was working for some corporation, and it's almost indentured servitude, because they didn't make enough money to really have a decent life. They barely made it. They struggled.
Yeah.
And now they're old and retired, and they're tired, and it's like those corporate machines took all of their energy. They took they sucked the life out of them, and now they're just sort of like this. They're tired versions of themselves that, and they never got to experience a lot of things they would have liked to have experienced, and also they couldn't be happy because they were under so much pressure, you know.
Yeah. Well, when you say like they miss things and stuff, that's the one big thing for me as a parent. I refuse to miss things. And you know, so far my son's 4, so there's not much to miss really, other than time in itself and him growing. But I'm talking about like athletic things, like events like that.
More than you think, though, man.
No, yeah, I agree, and I'm not trying to minimize it at all, but I refuse to. I remember what it felt like to play football or to wrestle or to do track, and other people's parents were there, and my parents never were.
Yeah.
My dad, the first time he's ever seen me do anything, was the first round of the UCC this year.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And so it was a big deal for him to show up, and it's crazy that it took 41 years for him to be able to do that, that he didn't have some type, he retired last year. And so he didn't have some type of responsibility that just didn't. And as a kid, I was pissed off about it. You know, like to me, you as a kid, you think in simple terms. And I was thinking, you know, ain't no way this motherfucker loves me. You know what I mean? And then as you become an adult, you realize like he prioritized putting food on the table because that's what should come first, you know? And,
right.
And so,
well, I mean, it's important for your dad to be there for those sporting events. You know, when I didn't play, I played sports through, I guess, 7th grade. I played baseball through 7th grade, and my dad would come to all my games because he was a baseball fan. He was a good baseball player when he was a kid, and so it was nice for him to, and he would practice with me too. You know, he taught me a lot, but which I really appreciated. That was important. But then
he played baseball when he was younger.
Yeah, he was really good. They just did that documentary. I can't remember the name of the documentary. It was about the team he was on with.
Oh, was he on that team?
Yeah, yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
he was on that team
from Farmer.
Yeah, Farmer back in the 60s, I guess, or late 60s.
Well, that's pretty cool.
And they were the state champions and all that stuff. But so my dad loved baseball, and he was very involved with that. And but then after when I was 14, I started working.
Yeah,
you know, I got a job, and I was just and I worked from then on. So I stopped playing sports. I didn't have time, and I got into skateboarding, which I love skateboarding. And I didn't, you know, skateboarding is just like you're just doing that with your friends, and you don't care if anybody comes to see you. So
yeah.
And I really never, as I got older, probably 14, 15, I just felt almost like I was a roommate with my parents, because they weren't real strict about what I did, because I never got in trouble. I never caused them any problems. I was a good kid. I mean, I would sneak off and drink and do things like that, but I handled my shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like all of our laws should really be just handle your shit laws.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter what you do. Do whatever you want to do. Just
handle your shit.
If you just keep handle your shit. if you get out of control, we'll handle you.
The judge is up there. You didn't handle your shit. 3 days in jail.
Yeah. Exactly. It'd be a much better system.
Yeah, it would be. Some of our laws are unnecessary. They're bulky.
So I appreciate my parents for that, because, once I got to about 14, 15, my parents really backed off. And that was nice, because up until that point, they were pretty intense.
I think I always felt the pressure. I think I always felt like my dad, more so than my mom. I always felt like there was like like he was vicariously living through me,
Oh, okay.
And I don't think it was necessarily bad all the time. I think he just wanted me to do better than him. Like he knew that there was a better life to be had out there, and he wanted me to do better than him. And I don't applaud the way he went about it. I think there was multiple roads to get here, and I think sometimes he took the fucking roughest one, but we got here, And
he's just afraid.
I think and that's something I've told people too about my son is, we made a conscious decision not to use corporal punishment and not to spank him. And I remember
he's lucky.
I literally lost my temper one time, and I gave him a pop, and it was something that I told him not to do multiple times, and he'd done it anyway. And then I realized when it was over, I felt horrible, and I was like, he didn't learn anything from this. There was no lesson learned. There was just me acting out. All he learned from that was to be scared of me. And that's not what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so it's but at the same time, my dad, we're all, as parents, we're just fucking winging it. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. There's no instruction manual.
Kids don't come home with it. Yeah. They don't come home with a book. So you're just fucking winging it, and you're hoping like hell and they're constantly throwing new stuff at you. You think you've got it figured out, and then you have a bad day, and you don't have it figured out.
Yeah. My nephew, he was probably 8, and he's really ADD, and he had a lot of behavioral issues when he was real young, and he could be a lot. He's a great kid though. He's 16 now. He's maturing, but he was staying with us. This is before I had my daughter, and he was just acting crazy, just really being difficult for my wife to handle and stuff. And I got my ass beat all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just like a big part of my life.
Yeah, you just got it.
It's just part of it.
Even if you didn't deserve it, like today you need to get your
it's been a while. You need to, it's time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and he was just out of control, and I was like, am I supposed to spank him? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So I spanked him, with my hand. I didn't beat him with a belt or anything.
Yeah.
And I spanked him, and I made him sit down, and I was like, man, this feels really wrong.
Yeah.
Like I feel horrible, man.
Same thing, man.
I went and sat down beside him, and I just told him, like, hey dude, I love you. First off, I love you. And I'm sorry I spanked you, man. Like I don't think that was the right thing to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a parent. I've never been a parent. This is just what my parents did with me.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think you needed that. I think there's a better way to handle this. But also, you need to understand that, yeah, you're a child, and I'm an adult, but we're still the same thing. You're just a mini version of me, and you're just still learning, and your mind is still forming and developing. But you just have to be respectful of us, and we'll be respectful of you. but we love you, and I'm not going to spank you again. Like I don't think that's the right way to handle this. And I said, if you don't behave, then I'll punish you in different ways. I'll take things away, or, you know, but,
how old was he when you done this?
He was 8.
Okay.
And I felt horrible, man. I felt really terrible about it. And I never spanked him after that. And I never spanked my daughter. We've never spanked my daughter. And she doesn't need it. Like, I can slightly raise my voice if I need to get her attention. If she's,
people can say what they want though, man, but boys and girls are so different. They just are.
They are. But I mean, even with him, he was about as bad as you can get as far as just being a rambunctious kid and just being out of control. Not mean. He's a sweet kid, but he was a lot. Like, he was just a lot. But he didn't need to be physically punished.
Yeah. Well, imagine, you know, and then the other thing too is I done the same thing after I popped Theodore. Like, I sat him down and I talked to him like an adult, which is the way we've always handled it. Like, I'm telling you, I've never felt as small as I did in that moment. But it's really important for me to make sure that he knows that if I'm wrong, even as an adult, it's I'm wrong and I have to own that, you know? And so I told him, I was like, you know, Daddy, sorry I whipped you. I shouldn't have whipped you. Same basic stuff. But then after it was over, I kind of laughed because I got to thinking, like, could you imagine the first ass whipping you get from your bully at school? You know, if the guy just sits down and he's like, look, Neil, I didn't want to fucking do that, man. But you came in here wearing them fucking clunky ass shoes and I made fun of you for them yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, I love you, man, but I just can't have you going around looking like a fucking dork. You know,
well, it's funny though. Like, when we were kids though, a lot of times you get in a fight with a dude and then you're good friends with him. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's every friend I've got. I've fought with childhood friend.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys don't get nervous.
Never fought with my adult friends.
Yeah. As an adult, you're over that shit. Yeah. If you try to fight me now, I'm just fucking leaving, you know? So, but, yeah, I mean, that's generally the way it would work. And it doesn't, and sometimes it wouldn't even be one fight. Sometimes you might fight them 3 or 4 times, you know? You know, it's like, sure. I literally remember one of my friends one time, I was like, what are we going to do? And he's like, I don't know. And we were just kind of bored and it devolved somehow into us just fighting.
I think kids fighting is also like an expression of societal pressure and pain, because I don't know about you, but until I was in probably pre 12 years old, maybe, whenever I'd fight, I'd cry.
Yeah, same thing.
And you just be wailing on each other, crying.
Yeah, you're just letting it all out.
Yeah, it's like, why am I crying? I'm fighting. But it's like it's all that pain that builds up in you, and then somebody else has got that same pain, and you come together. It's like 2 little volcanoes that just erupt, you know.
Well, and then sometimes too, like as you get a little bit older, like as teenagers and stuff, I think when you fight with your friends, then it's almost like it's a weird animalistic thing where you're trying. I almost think it's subconscious. Like I think it's
like dominance.
Yeah. I think it's like a lion pride or something. Like you're trying to make sure that if you have to go fight other people, that this guy can handle his business. You know,
that's
it's
true.
like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I think it's an instinct almost, because which is ridiculous. I mean, we shouldn't be out here. I hate when people, which we're all guilty of it, but I hate when people compare themselves to animals. You know, like I'm a mama bear. It's like, hey, you're just being a bitch, you know, or I'm a lion. It's like, nah, you're just overly aggressive. Get your test checked, bro. You know,
but we are animals, though.
We are, but that
whole thing about
we're not lions, we're not bears.
We're highly conscious animals.
Yeah.
But we are still animals. It's, you know, the whole thing's connected, and the anthropomorphization of animals, I think, is actually more accurate than inaccurate. I think there should be a lot of that. I think that's how we've separated ourselves from animals. But when an animal behaves in a way that we understand, that we resonate with, it's because they are feeling something similar to what we feel in that situation. You know, they're conscious beings. They're just not as high. They're not as high of a form of consciousness as we are, but they still have feelings and stuff similar to us. You know, and I think I don't know. It seems like life, and maybe life is maybe when a star explodes, that produces all the ingredients for life, and then when planets form, they're almost like little eggs of life, and if the conditions are just right, they start to grow like a chia pet almost, so then you have life starts to form, and it continually evolves and becomes more and more complex and builds on top of itself. And so it's constantly like eating itself and growing and building and eating itself and growing and building into more and more complexity until it reaches a level of consciousness when it can observe itself. And we're just the universe experiencing itself. And I think it'll keep getting more and more complex. So, like life on Earth, maybe eventually, maybe what we're creating with technology is just a higher level of life. And maybe eventually everything becomes that thing. And then it'll start to expand out. And maybe that's what happens throughout the universe. But I think the way that we separate ourselves from animals or from nature and from other things, and we create these religions and then these ideologies and stuff, I think that I don't think that's an accurate representation of what we are and what everything is. I think it's all one system. It's all one thing. And just because we are able to experience it on a higher level doesn't mean we're not a part of it. I think we're just as much of a part of nature as lions and bears. And I think our technology, the things that we create are also a part of nature. It's just our version of an anthill, so it's just a more complex version of nature. Everything's nature. It's all part of the universe.
I think we're part of it. I don't think we're not part of it. I just think that we have evolved a high enough consciousness that we can go beyond just a purely emotional outburst. Whereas that's like I tell people. Somebody asked me one time, how many men do I think it would take to, like, barefisted, to fight and kill? There's a bear or a lion, some fucking ridiculous animal. And I'm like,
several.
A lot. You're going to lose several just on the initial jumping on this motherfucker. Because the thing is that with animals, animalistically, in their head, everything they do is survival. It's to eat, to breed, or to kill, to live. That's it. There's nothing else. They're not out searching for a state of happiness or bliss. Lions are out there, they're hungry, they're going to go hunt. They're horny, they're going to breed. You know what I mean? There is no fucking in between. And so you're jumping on something that has a lower state of consciousness that only really has 3 gears, and you've got all these other things that you're thinking about. You're kind of overthinking the process. Plus, you're taking away from humans our greatest advantage, our brains. You're nullifying the brain by saying you got to jump on it just like you are. No weapons. You don't have time to prepare. No battle plans. No nothing. You just jump on it.
Well, we've lost our claws and our teeth and our hair and all that stuff, and
because we didn't need them.
Because our intellectual capabilities have made those things unnecessary. So we can be soft, squishy water balloons, and because we have really powerful tools.
Well, and so that like, to get back to the point, that's what I mean when I say we're not lions and we're not bears, because we think beyond the basics. The basics are important to us, but we can elevate beyond the basics because we've made life in society easier to accomplish the basics so that we can work on what we consider to be greater problems.
Well, I would say that we are the lions and the bears. I would say that
I've got to smoke pot to listen to
that. Because I think once life reaches a higher level of consciousness, like we've reached, I think at that point we're able to manipulate ourselves and manipulate reality, and I think it also gives us a higher responsibility to ourselves and to the rest of life, that we come in contact with. And I think, I don't want to talk about this again, as I've already talked about it a bunch, but the Nobel Prize last year in physics was about quantum entanglement and the John Bell theorem and the idea that well, they were trying to figure out how quantum entanglement works. Like how can two particles be connected, but no matter the distance, they're always perfectly connected. So if you measure one particle, it's an exact mirror of the other one. And that would mean that the information connecting those particles is traveling faster than the speed of light. And what they found with the research is that there is no time or space. It's an illusion. Those particles aren't separated. They're always together because time and space isn't real, not the way we know it. Time and space is our interface, is based on the way we interact and interface with the other information in reality. So that all of reality is just a singularity of information, just like on a microchip, you know. So we are just complex versions, or we are the complex. We are part of the complex pieces of the information, and as the information becomes more and more complex, it becomes more and more conscious, and then we will likely reach a level where we can manipulate the information. So then you open up the doorway of maybe be able to travel through space at maybe instantaneously, travel through great distances, just because we can manipulate the information, because it is just information. So it's the idea that if you're not observing something, it's not physically there. And that physical reality isn't really physical. It's just the way we interface with the information. Which is fascinating, but if you think about it that way, then there is no separation between you and the lions or the bears. We are the lions and the bears. We're everything in this room. We're this whole planet. We're the whole solar system, the whole galaxy, the whole universe. We're just little pieces of information that make up the whole thing. But we're conscious, so we're a part of the consciousness of the universe. And I think maybe there's a possibility the whole universe is conscious, or maybe it will be one day. Maybe we're a part of that. Maybe that's what life.
We're all like the tiny neurons that are.
Yeah, we're just part of the mind.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the self is sort of an illusion. I think, I think there's a good possibility that consciousness doesn't stop. Like when you die, your consciousness is just constantly taking in information like an antenna, and it's sending that information back to the source of consciousness. And once you die, you're a part of all of that consciousness. So then you're a part of all of knowledge and all of experience and everything. And you're just, you can almost think of it as, if you want to call it God, you could say that God is experiencing everything through all of our minds. And we are just a part of God experiencing himself or itself, or or the universe experiencing itself. And so, there is no death. It's just the process of building more complexity and more consciousness. So it's I think reality is way more complex than what we can comprehend. And I think it's detrimental that we separate ourselves from reality, from nature or from the universe or whatever, because we're intrinsic parts of the whole, and I think we should be more aware of our connection to everything, and also be more responsible.
So in that way, life is transcendental.
Yeah, and
maybe not our individual life, but life in and of itself.
Yeah, and so when you see other human beings suffering, that shouldn't happen. We should fix that.
Yeah, I agree to an extent.
I mean, I think if you want to have a better society, you want to have a better world, a better life, then you have to eliminate negative suffering. You need suffering because suffering is improvement. Like we need to suffer. We need to compete. We need to suffer. We need to do difficult things to enhance our minds, to further evolve into a higher consciousness, and also to have purpose. But you don't have to have starvation. You don't have to have you don't have to have children dying to accomplish these things. I think if you can heal these parts of our society, then we'll all do better because we're all capable. Like most humans have incredible capabilities. But when you have huge pockets of suffering in the society, and not positive suffering, not people trying to do difficult things, but people just trying to survive, that pulls down on all of us. Those are like sores on your body, you know. And I think if we don't tend to those sores, they'll become real problems. They'll become real disease, and those types of things could end humanity, you know, could end society. So I think being self-aware and being a higher consciousness also gives you more responsibility. And it's like if you had a sore on your foot and you let it fester and progress and get worse, and you just ignore it, well, eventually you're going to get gangrene and you're going to die.
Yeah.
And that's what you see in society when you see poverty and that type of suffering. That's a sore in the body of society, and really the body of all of life. And that needs to be healed, you know. And I think if we can heal that, we can solve all these other issues that we have, you know, because then you're going to have, instead of having, you know, a million scientists, you'll have millions of scientists. You know, you'll have, if all humans had all of their basic needs and they had the ability to pursue the things that they're interested in and use their full potential to create things, we would have an amazing reality. And,
Yeah,
I think we're heading that way, hopefully. But, you know, there's an aspect of humanity that doesn't want people to head that way. That wants the opposite. They want there's an element where the idea that a few people can have all the power and then make everyone else suffer at their will, you know. And so
you think their desire is intentional suffering, or do you
I
think
think
it's
some
just,
people, feed off of power.
Yeah, some may, but I think that the power, if you could give them power without suffering, they would be okay.
Well, I think it's
maybe that's not possible.
I think it's fear driven, a lot of it. But there's also a thing where a lot of sociopathic people make it to powerful positions because they don't regard other people. They don't regard other people's lives.
Yeah, it don't matter.
Yeah, they don't have those feelings, those connections, and that most of us do have. So I think it's our responsibility as a whole, as a society, to change those things. And I don't mean to hurt those people. Like, you know, those people have a purpose. They have a use, but also you have to watch those people and not let them control your life. And it doesn't mean you can't have unlimited success, but you just can't have power over the people. And I think that's where we need to be as a society, is where I can't force my will on you. You know, we all need to work together to make this thing work and to move forward and to heal as a society. But at the same time, no individual should have power over another individual. You know, it doesn't mean you can't have extraordinary success. And if you have a healthy society, you can have more success because you have a more productive society. But, you know, I think people need more introspection, more self-awareness, and we need to, instead of being so self-centered, we need to understand that we're all a part of this thing together, and we need to work together to make it work, you know, and
a collective will.
Yeah. And I think we're heading in that direction. There are far less kingdoms there used to be.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, a couple hundred years ago, there was mostly just kingdoms. And now there's democratic societies where the individuals in the society actually do play a role in what happens in the society.
It's strange to me that we ever got to the point where we had kingdoms. Like it's to me, that's strange. And I guess it's because of the way my brain is wired. I don't have a desire to be a king, but I don't have a desire to serve one either. Like, and it's strong. So it's strange to me that humans ever developed a collective will that said that we're okay with this guy having all of this power and all of these things, in spite of us having sometimes significantly less than what we need to even survive. I mean,
in a lot of ways, that's why humans did survive, though. It was a part of our evolution, of our societal evolution, is because there have been many different versions of humans, and up until about 40,000 years ago, there were several at once. And we made it. They all went extinct because they couldn't work together collectively, at least not on the level we can. Like Neanderthals or Homo erectus, they had smaller groups of they had smaller tribes, whereas Homo sapiens could have tribes of 150 plus people. And then we could also create constructs to like religion and stuff to tie people together and have larger groups of people. And so I think there was definitely maybe a need for survival in having these tribal leaders and different tribes and stuff like that as we evolved socially. But at this point in our evolution, I think we can see that those things aren't necessary. Like we need some ideologies. Like we need to agree that, hey, it's not cool to go kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's not cool to attack somebody for no reason or to force your will on somebody else. But we can all agree on those things, and we can share these ideas and equally have those across billions of people, and find some balance in that. But early on you would have, all these you just had thousands of little tribes of people and small groups with their own beliefs. It was like a bunch of cults, basically. And that's what eventually led to societies, because you'd have, maybe you have 100 tribes of people in this region, and this one tribe is just killing it. They're doing really well. So they start to take over the resources of all these other tribes, and then they take their ideas and give them to these other tribes of people. And that, then those people become part of this tribe, and then that spreads, and then you have big nations, know, and so, but back then, and this happened, I guess, probably after agriculture became a thing, when people started staying in one place,
right,
and using resources. And so then you had, so if you met someone that had different beliefs or ideologies or language, they were kind of your enemy, so then you would just take what they had, or they would take what you had, but I think now we're at a place where we're so connected globally that we can see the problems in that mentality, and you don't have to murder people to make it. You really need to work with those people and say, hey, you guys have these resources, we have these resources, let's share our resources and let's solve some problems together. That's what we should be doing. But instead, there's still a big component of power. You see it with big corporations and
they want to control. Yeah.
All the wars that we're in are just based on corporate greed, man. All the wars are based on corporate market share. It's powerful corporations trying to gain market share in other regions and trying to access resources in other regions. And so instead of working with those other regions of people, we're just trying to take it from them. And that's why we have these conflicts. The United States is the most powerful country in the world. We're also the scariest country in the world. And we could approach countries like Russia or China from a more diplomatic perspective and say, hey, let's work together. We'll help you guys with some of the stuff you're working on. You help us with some of the stuff we're working on. We'll work together and we'll be allies. We could do that today, but it's a power war. It's corporations. I would say corporations have more power than our government does, because they control our government to a large extent. And the corporations don't want to, they're not going to give away resources. They're not going to give away, I guess, technologies and just resources to improve a relationship with another country or a society of people when they can just take it. Because a corporation's purpose is to make as much money as possible by any means, within the law. But then if they manipulate the laws, then they can do whatever they want to do. And it's not an individual, it's just a machine. And so I you know, I look at these corporate entities as very powerful machines that will, if not kept in check, they'll just absorb everything, including us. You know, that, and you'll have, you know, the United Corporations of America instead of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And so I think in those areas, that's when people need to be more self-aware and more aware of how our systems work, and the importance of regulating these powerful machines that we have, and maybe even dividing them into many more machines, or maybe having more personal control over these machines individually. You know, because I think there's some benefit in having small businesses too. I think because I think small businesses are highly threatened today because these massive corporations, they want to control everything. They want to own everything. And any opportunity they have to acquire more market share, they'll gobble up all the small businesses.
Yeah, when your goal is just to drive up stock prices and control market share, and a market, it's easier to go in and buy a market than it is to go in and compete for that market. I mean, that's what they found. It's
right,
dollar for dollar.
And a real concern with even like artificial intelligence is, I feel like artificial intelligence has the ability to really create a much better life and society for everyone on the planet, because it's like taking the collective consciousness of humanity and all of our ideas and putting it in this one being, almost like a magic mirror that we can look into and say, hey, I got to wrap this up, and say, hey, we have these problems. Help us solve these problems, because we're really asking the collective, all of our collective minds, to solve problems together. It's like putting all of our brains together in one brain, and then allowing that thing to solve problems. So it's an incredibly powerful technology that we can, if we harness in a positive way, it can do incredibly positive things for us. But it can also be used against us, and it could be used to because this technology is so powerful, it can do everything that humans can do, but do it better. And so it can replace all humans. Like every human job could be immediately replaced or quickly replaced by these powerful artificial intelligence, or really it's just a powerful form of intelligence. And if that happens, then if that's all controlled by these corporations, then suddenly these corporations control us. They'll have all the power, and then it's like we're just consumer employees of corporations. And I don't know what that looks like. It's that scary idea of you'll have nothing and be happy about it.
Well, I work with small businesses at work, you know, contractors and things.
Yeah. Well, I'm a business consultant, so I work with a lot of small businesses.
And I can tell you that there's a lot more small businesses now that the end goal for them is to create a business, control enough market share to sell out to a larger company. I mean, that's the goal. Because
and I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just think you need more regulation for these big corporations, because right now they're kind of like these autonomous machines that are just out of control.
Yeah.
And they need to be kept in check, because their goal is to make as much profit as possible, no matter what. That's why some companies have slaves. So you just they need these certain regulations so they don't just absorb everything and just destroy everything, because they'll destroy everything in their own interest.
Yeah.
You know, for their own interest.
Yeah, because they don't care about people eating.
Well, they're not people. They're machines.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you took a bulldozer and just put it in drive and let it go, it'll run over babies. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's a bulldozer, you know, and it's the same thing with the corporation. It's just a machine. So anyway.
Interesting.
Well, dude, it was a pleasure having you on, man. I have to wrap this up because I got to get to a prosthetic appointment.
All right.
It was fun,
Not
man.
a
I'll have to have you back on.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, this was fun. So, we always have good conversations.
Yeah, man, for sure. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. Which camera? This one? Yeah. Be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. See you guys.